Hi, this is Deacon Rick Bauer. Welcome to Scripture 520, the Pentateuch at Catholic Distance University. Let's take a look at a brief introduction to our course and the syllabus. We'll talk about a few introductory matters, then we'll walk carefully through the syllabus, talk a little bit about the activities for week number 1, and some suggestions on how to succeed in the class. We'll also look at some of the reading resources that you have available and news of an optional Zoom room every Thursday to walk through the material from each week and to answer any questions. So let's get into it. What's amazing is in this morning's Mass readings, the first reading from the Book of Wisdom, we have a commentary on the Pentateuch. Scripture commenting on Scripture, and this is what we talk about in terms of the rule of faith and the Scripture interpreting itself. God did not make death, nor does he rejoice in the destruction of the living, for he fashioned all things that they might have being, and the creatures of the world are wholesome. As you read at Genesis 1 and 2, you'll read that the world that God created was ki tov. In other words, it was good. And at the end of creation, it was pronounced very good. Not a primordial struggle of evil against evil, but a world created for good that, when given choice, tragically went awry. And we'll see that at the end of the reading today, God formed man, humankind, to be imperishable. The image of his own nature, he made him, the imago Dei that we talk about in Genesis. But by the envy of the devil, death entered the world, and they who belong to his company experience it. And so in a nutshell, the writer of the Wisdom of Solomon summarizes one of the major creation themes and part of the primeval history that we'll be reading starting this week. Welcome to the course. Let's talk a little bit about Scripture 520. Please take the time to read through the entire syllabus. This presentation is only a part of that. We're going to hit some of the highlights, but you're responsible for taking the time, 15-20 minutes, make sure you understand everything. If you have questions, let's talk about them at the Zoom room this week. The course will approach the first 5 books of the Bible, known as the Pentateuch. We're going to look at certain themes. To be able to look at all the themes and do a deep dive would take, I've seen Pentateuch courses that would last a year. So we've got 8 weeks this summer, and we'll do our very best. We're going to focus on creation theology and the idea of covenant, berit in the Hebrew. What does it mean when God makes a covenant with humanity? We'll look at several different examples of that. You're going to, first of all, our primary destination is to understand the texts as they were first received, and then to look in the history of interpretation. As good Catholics do, we see that the wisdom of the church in understanding these scripture in light of the rule of faith and in light of the traditions of the church and the magisterium are so important in getting a fulsome view of these areas. And so we'll do that. We'll look at controversial areas. We'll look at areas that show us how the scripture might have been assembled, although we're not going to be doctrinaire on this because the scriptures aren't, and the teaching of the church isn't either. But in trying to look at some of the original sources and see where these things have come from. Here are the course objectives for Scripture 520. We're going to look through to try to have the eyes of ancient Hebrews as we understand these truths. We'll look at the creation narrative and see what patterns it may resonate with in the creation and the building of the temple. We'll also see that in other parts of the Pentateuch. We'll look at the great Pentateuch covenants. Was creation a covenant? There are pros and cons on that. but that with Noah after the flood, with Abraham, and with Moses and the Israelites. We'll look at what they have in common and the areas where they may be unique. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Deacon Rick Bauer. I'll be your instructor. Also teaching this course is Dr. Peter Brown, our dean at CDU. And Dr. Brown will be in the course as well from time to time as appropriate and as we are blessed with his wisdom and insight. Because of his travel and other responsibilities, you should make me your primary contact for the course for things that are immediate questions that you have, although Dr. Brown's email is provided as well. Both of us prefer email, and we'll do our very best to get back to you within a day. I want to talk about briefly how the course is structured and how to study and succeed in the course. This is not a typical lecture course that you might have in other classes where you listen to someone who knows a lot about the subject, you take notes, and then you validate those on tests. This is really based on your own reading, your own discovery, your own struggle with the text, your own view of what wise men and women have said about it over the years. We're going to make sure that you have access to those resources, but this is really something that is centered on your activities and not simply an expert talking about it. We'll have short audio presentations and additional information from week to week that emphasize a key point in each lesson. Please pay attention to those. We'll have additional readings if you want to dive deeper or if you're looking for a topic on your final paper. We recommend that you set aside 17 hours a week to complete the requirements for this course. And start with 17, you may need a little bit more, but if you try to squeeze all the reading into just a few hours, it'll be a blur, and you won't really be able to reflect on it, pray about it, understand it, and be able to discuss it with your classmates and with others in the class. So you've got a midterm, you've got an open book final essay, and you have a research paper as well as a weekly participation activity. So there's a lot to do. But the good news is, when it's all done, you will have a rich foundation in understanding the very beginnings of Scripture. Very important. This is a blinding grasp of the obvious, but 8 weeks in the summer goes by fast. We're going to blink and we'll be getting out those final exams and finishing those final papers. So don't let it zip by you. These are amazing truths that your life and your life of faith will be blessed. The people whom you are privileged by God to teach as catechists, as church leaders, as those who help influence the adult teaching in the Catholic Church, understanding these books is really vital for you. Okay, a few more requirements. Weekly readings in the Scripture, other commentaries on that, preparing for the discussions. You make contributions as a class participation assignment, so make sure you do those. One is submitted by 12 o'clock on Monday, and then you respond to those on Saturday evening by midnight. So don't get online at 10 minutes to midnight and say, wow, did you see Abraham? Oh, that was awesome. Because no one will be there to respond. So jump on that early. I recommend with these kinds of assignments, carve out a certain time on Tuesday afternoon or Thursday or Friday before it's summer. The weekend will be busy with other things. And so just carve out the time. Information on the midterm and the final, as well as the final paper, is provided there as well. There are participation requirements, and so please understand your responsibility. Dean Brown and I are responsible for getting the very best information to you. Your responsibility is to take that, to chew on it, to think on it, to reflect on it, to pray about it, and bring your best thoughts and your best insight in that area. As I've said many times, you get out of a course what you put into it. I can guarantee you that if you make the time, if you do the readings, if you pray about having God's wisdom from these amazing books of Scripture, it will be a blessing, and you will be blessed not only in this class, but through a lifetime of reading. A lifetime of every time I read these 5 books, I come away with a better insight into God's nature, a better sense of His patience with His people who are all too human, and a greater insight into His love. And I know, talking with Dr. Brown, he has the same kinds of experience as well. So keep that in mind. Here are the assignments. 20% of a discussion grade, midterm, and final, and then 40% of your term paper. So it's a heavyweight assignment. We'll be talking about it, and if you prepare and start building on your research and getting a topic and getting those things done early enough in the term, you won't be freaking out during the last week. In terms of the bibliography, there are some amazing books that are written about the Pentateuch. Please use the New Interpreter's Bible by Abingdon Press and the Navarra Bible, the Pentateuch Commentary Edition by Navarra Press, as the primary reference sources. So you read the text, you look at what New Interpreter's Bible, NIV we'll call it for short, and Navarra have to say about it. That's a good place to start. There will be additional material if you want to read them. Go right ahead. There's a lot in the bibliography, in the syllabus, great resources. Again, they're human commentaries written by human people. Nothing is infallible, nothing is perfect. And if you see something you don't agree with or you have questions on, that's what makes a great conversation. So jump on in there. This is a lifetime of reading on the Pentateuch. And Dr. Brown has devoted many years to its study, and I have as well. We don't claim to have all the answers. In fact, every time we read, we keep coming up with even more questions. But it's in that search, in asking God for wisdom, that we are blessed. One of the really exciting things that we're announcing today is that we have created through some electronic resources that we have, a document repository. And we will have all the articles and all the commentaries on the Pentateuch from the NIV and from the Navarra Bible commentary. So although we want you to build a library, and we want you to be able to invest in these resources, if you want to read and mark them up and really make them your own, go out and get those commentaries if you can. But we've made these available for free download, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So the page numbers, even from the original books, are there in various places on the page. You'll see them in light brown, so that when you're citing it in your research paper, you'll be able to cite just as anyone would from the original book length text. So keep in mind, these resources are available only for students who are enrolled in the course. You are prohibited from copying or otherwise distributing them to anyone else outside the course. Help us to maintain what we call in good faith a fair use copyright arrangement, and not compromise the revenue that is due to the authors of these books. The address for the repository is in Canvas. You'll see it on the syllabus page. It's also here in the link. I'll send you the slide deck where you can be able to click on that. Definitely want to bookmark that puppy for your use this term. Here's a screen grab from the document repository. There is so much more. We have commentaries on every one of the 5 Pentateuchal books. The PDFs that we've rendered these in, you're able to zoom in and zoom out, so you can use them on a tablet or a PC. If you have access to someone else's printer, you can definitely print them out and mark them up. As we wrap up, I want to let you know that I want us to have an optional meeting every Thursday night, and we'll be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That should allow folks on the West Coast to be able to drop in at the end of the day. Again, this is optional, but each week we're going to review the assignment. If there are deliverables or paper or a test, we'll be able to talk about how to prepare for it. It's not a lecture per se, but we may bring along a few presentations and some information that may help. Why does the book of Exodus say that God hardened Pharaoh's heart? And yet in another place it said Pharaoh hardened his heart. How does St. Paul make use of that in writing about God's will and the plan for the Jews in Romans chapter 9 and 11? This is a fascinating subject, and we'll take a look at this and others. How is the Pentateuch put together? How is Dei Verbum? How does one of the Vatican encyclical documents, conciliar documents, come out and really speak to our understanding of the Old Testament? We'll do these and more during the term. We'll use Zoom. I'll have all the coordinates as soon as I get my Zoom account, and we'll pass those along. Circle your calendars every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, not a mandatory assignment, just something helpful. Sometimes in a asynchronous class where people are working in different days, different times, different paces, it is always good to just huddle up and sit and talk and how are we processing this stuff? What is it meaning for us? And are there questions or places where we're stuck? And we'll do our very best to address those. So on behalf of Dr. Brown, who sends his regards, this is Deacon Rick. Thank you for being a part of this class. We really hope that you'll be blessed by it. And as an incentive to get you working on your class participation, we have a bonus question this week. Where is baseball first mentioned in the Bible? Because we know it's a divine game, of course, but where is baseball mentioned in the Bible? The first correct post, and just post it in your email, will receive a few extra bonus points for your participation. God bless you. Welcome to the class. Let's get going. Bye-bye now.